I'm really excited to introduce you to our next set of speakers. So first up, we have Jen Stoural. She is a VP of Talent for Smartsheet. Jen is a champion for personal and professional development, and she initiates understanding and strives to utilize the backgrounds, motivations, and work styles that make each person unique. She wears many hats in her role at Smartsheet, including motivator, competitor, and achiever. And I can't wait to hear more of Jen's talks about launching this idea with Smartsheet. Dana is going to join her in conversation. Dana Hall is one of Powerfly's own. She's an account executive with us. She joined the community as a job seeker last year and then eventually landed her role with us today as an account exec working with the sales team. She has a wide variety of skills in her background. She also has a bachelor's degree in business management. She says it's because accounting was too difficult. And she is traveling around North and Central America currently with her boyfriend, Luke. So we're so excited to welcome, this amazing member of the Powerfly community, as well as Jen. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Jen and Dana. Take it away, ladies.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Meg, for the introduction. And hi, everyone out there. Happy Wednesday. We've made it halfway through the day and almost to the end of our summit. So thanks so much for tuning in. As Meg introduced us, we have Jen here. So I don't want to take any more time about myself. I'd love to hear Jen, and for everybody, some background information. I'm actually the account executive that gets to work with Jen and the Smartsheet team every day. So we have a little bit of history, so hopefully y'all pick up on it. So yeah, Jen, let's hear a little bit about yourself. Tell us, where do you come from? What are some of your passions? And ultimately, how did you get to Smartsheet?
Yeah, it's actually, I love the story and how I got here. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Nebraska. We're right in the middle of the US. And I was working in financial services. I've been in recruitment and talent acquisition for quite some time. And so I wanted to get into the tech space. I wanted to evolve my career outside of just financial services in the Midwest. I had family out here. And so took advantage of them knowing the industry and started applying for some roles out here in Seattle. I was a user of Smartsheet. So when I saw the opportunity at Smartsheet, I was super excited to be able to just okay, now what's it all about? I used Smartsheet as a supplement to my applicant tracking system at the time. I think a lot of us have those executives that don't want to dig into the ATS and just want to see an overarching view. So Smartsheet was that solution for me, and I found the opportunity. I actually took a step back in my career as far as title is concerned, and I took an individual contributor role just to get my feet into technology. And I think when we were kind of talking about the topic for this conversation and making those moves and following what your true passions are, being able to take a step back and seeing what that can launch for you going forward. I started out as a recruiter 5.5 years ago at Smartsheet. I'm now the VP of Talent, and it's just been a dream job for me. So I'm super excited to be here and talk with you, Dana, of course.
That's so awesome to hear. I actually saw a good meme on LinkedIn the other day that said something to the tune of, at what point in your life is it too late to change careers? And there was one column that said, 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old. And then it basically was hitting home on the point that it's never too late.
Never.
And even me as an individual contributor, I'm now 30. I don't know how I ended up with a business degree, to be honest. I think it was because my dad told me to do accounting specifically. And like Meg said, I flunked intermediate accounting twice. So here I am. But I think, there's so much pressure going into college and going into your schooling.
Right.
You have to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And if I had to guess, based on that story, you never thought you were going to be a VP of talent at Smartsheet.
In Seattle, never.
In Seattle.
Never.
So
right.
That's super awesome. You traded in the quite two different kinds of weather. I'm here in Hood River, Oregon too, and the rain's starting to come. So Thank you for some of that background. And I mean, I guess on the tune of, how you got from individual contributor recruiter to be VP of talent in 5 years, what are some of the things that stick out to you as to how you got to your position today? What were some of the things that attributed to such a quick, climb and transformation?
Yeah. Well, I had the leadership experience prior to taking a step down. So I think the first point is never be afraid when shifting into different industries or careers to take a step back and really absorb yourself into this new market or this new space. And with your experience, whatever it is, being able to leverage that experience into your new role. So as an individual contributor, knowing that I had a leadership background, being able to come in and really take ownership and have autonomy with what I was doing really helped me propel my career at Smartsheet. But it's all about being able to be honest with yourself and self-aware of what you don't know and gain that expertise and gain that knowledge authentically. There's that fake it till you make it. There's a piece of that, but it's also ask the good questions. Be authentic with I want to know more about this. And it's new to me. Like technology, I so desperately miss having my son around because he's my tech guy. And I'm like, fix this for me. But I wanted to get into tech. So using my relationship building, using how, what kind of leader I was previously to get into a tech space, there was a lot for me to learn about Smartsheet, about software as a service, about the Seattle market and being able to get in there. So just have the self-awareness and humbleness to be able to acknowledge what you don't know and ask for the development to get yourself there while also leveraging your expertise.
Sure. Yeah, I've always said in my time here thus far, if I had to boil down one thing of what's helped me in my transition amongst careers and amongst jobs, it's just being curious, right?
Always.
Just have an insane amount of curiosity. Just ask a ton of questions. And then also something that I know, Jen, we've actually talked about before is being an advocate for yourself too, right? Yeah. You took a step back, you took an individual contributor role, you asked all the right questions, and then I'm sure you advocated for yourself as well. So can you talk a little bit about that, since we're here to talk about underrepresented talent in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I think that all of our experiences are unique. We come from non-traditional backgrounds. I had a non-traditional background to get into technology. And for me, what I identified with when I was asking the questions and I was curious about something, I would identify and also come with, here's how I'm thinking about it. Help me with how I'm thinking about it. Here's what I think the solution could be. Let me know your thoughts. So it's not just pointing stuff out, because sometimes if you just point it out, it might feel like a gotcha. But if you point it out and also come with the questions of, help me think through this. Here's what I think the solution could be. And that's when you start the dialogue, and that's when you start the learning and the mentor-menteeship of the individuals that you're engaging with.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for that background. And I guess so far what we've heard is a little bit about yourself. An awesome story about how to changing careers. Because even for me, I don't know, being 30, it's like, well, I guess I'm in sales for the rest of my life, and that's not necessarily true, right? And I don't know if I want to be in sales for the rest of my life. So the world is your oyster, you get to choose. Let's broaden the scope of the conversation a little bit and talk about Smartsheet. So now that you've gotten to your position at Smartsheet, you've talked a little bit about your role and how you got there. Tell us about the company as a whole and how the company fosters and welcomes an attitude of career change, or what are some of the programs that y'all leverage to bring in early career talent and make them feel welcome?
Yeah, we actually have a program it's an early career program that we have program managers over. So previously we had the traditional summer internship programs that everyone had. And it was focused on folks who were juniors and seniors in colleges. And so while at the time it worked, and it had this very, it had a small group of folks that you'd focus on. What we have learned in partnering with Power to Fly and being partners with y'all for quite some time, is that that is such a single-minded focus of talent to limit yourself to. And there's so much more out there with non-traditional backgrounds, and going actually outside of colleges and universities, looking at some of those programs that empower folks from underrepresented backgrounds. Working with Computing for All and ADA developers, and getting folks to really understand that this is the foundation of our talent. This is how we're going to grow. Like everyone has this idea of changing the makeup of your company is like going after the top of the pyramid, the folks who are already in those roles. But that's not how you build the talent for your company. And that's how Smartsheet's really looking at this going forward. We're really looking at what does it take to introduce folks from non-traditional backgrounds into technology, and being able to leverage that background, their backgrounds. And like, this is what it actually looks like. I had to take a step back to really understand technology. And had I not had mentors within the space to like help me along the way, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now. So I'm really passionate about it. It's really personal for me to be able to start out in every functional area of Smartsheet, to be able to have that early career opportunity into sales, into product, into UX design, and definitely into engineering. I think we don't have enough non-traditional backgrounds into our engineering tech space yet, and being able to really give them the broader scope of what it looks like to work for a technology company. So partnering with companies that have folks in high schools, folks who aren't choosing to go to a traditional university, but choosing to go to a coding camp or learning on their own, what that looks like. And so that's been our focus. It's so exciting to be able to see the success. Our interns and our folks coming in aren't surprised. They know what they're capable of, and they know how hard they work. But our leaders coming in and seeing the success of these groups is what just makes my day. Hearing them present, and then hearing our CEO talk about it, like, I don't know, he made a comment in one of our leadership calls that he had reached out to one of our interns' parents and said, you probably won't hear this from him, but I just want to let you know what he's built and the impact it'll make for hundreds of thousands of people that it'll touch. So like, seeing that piece makes it worth it. And I'm telling you, companies are doing this, not just Smartsheet. I love to be able to talk about Smartsheet and all the opportunities here, but this is your chance and this is your market. So you having the initiative to be able to go after these roles and starting the conversations and asking those questions, I think is like your first step, because we are looking for you. We are looking for this talent.
I just got chills. That's awesome. That's so exciting. And the personal touch from your CEO, I think that's really cool. My mom would start crying. That's really awesome to hear. And, because it's such a important and also like, unfortunately, a huge part of our lives these days, I want to talk a little bit about COVID and how Smartsheet has reacted to COVID, especially with early career talent. I think back to my first position in sales, it was a huge cubicle floor, right? And you just stood up and you just yelled across the room at your friend whenever you needed help. So how has Smartsheet reacted to COVID, and what does the workplace look like today? And then with specific to, some of this more early career talent or someone that's newer to their role and needs a little more help and motivation, how are y'all continuing to foster that?
Yeah. Well, we never really thought we'd still be here, and we are. And so I think how we were able to initially adjust to it was protect and take care of our employee base and just make sure that they have the resources that they need to be successful. So we were able to kind of switch from parking allowances that we would normally give folks and pull it into not a new hire stipend, but like an at-home stipend. Like, if you need more monitors, how can you set yourself up? What does that look like? So switching our benefits more to meet the employee need. And I think when we first started with all of this, you had to come from a place of just radical empathy of what people are going through. I think, and we were speaking with this on a little bit prior to this, to the webinar, and talking about right now, it's more intimate of an interview than it's ever been before. You're in my home. You are seeing things in my home. I could have like a dog run by or a child run by or something happening. This would never take place in an interview. It would never take place in a professional world. So I think just that the understanding and grace that we're giving each other in this space creates so much more connection, an authentic connection that you wouldn't necessarily get in in a traditional interview going into the office kind of space. So we're continuing to manage through that. We're continuing to create space for folks to be able to have technology issues or to have a child come running in and needing help with something. And I think that just creates a more authentic, as I said, connection. With interviewing, I think being able to be really honest about where you're at and what's happening and setting that tone. So as you're coming into your interview and you're earlier in your career, just be honest about what's happening. Just be authentic. Like, I have parents who are here. They may come in. I told them I was on an interview, but they may be dropping in. I also have notes up on the screen. So I might be looking over in this area, or I'm going to be looking at my resume here. So just being really authentic with your setup and what's happening. And then always just, allowing the space and ask the questions. And it's okay to have a little bit of a pause too, to just take a breath through it. And we're all in it together.
Yeah, 100%. I was back in February when I started at Power to Fly. I hadn't used Zoom to the extent that we are all familiar with it now, or whatever video collaboration product we use. It's been interesting, in the very beginning, everything had to be perfect behind me. Yeah. And I hung up my own little green screen because my computer was so old that it couldn't use the backgrounds from Zoom. Yeah. Whereas today, right, like, thankfully I'm in this little office, but it's definitely gotten more of like a more relaxed environment. And I hesitate to use the word relaxed, but more of like you said, we are giving each other a level of understanding and grace that we haven't ever given before. Yeah. And I think from an interview perspective, it's actually really cool because I get to see you. Yes, I get to see your home, right? As talent interviewing for Smartsheet potentially. Yeah. But I also get to see, like, if your child runs through, like, how do you handle that? Right. Like, if you handle that in a way that maybe I wouldn't want to be handled or whatever it is, right. Then I feel like you get to know the person so much more, even though we're not in each other's physical presence, which is really cool that we've been able to have that happen. So on that note, everybody, I'm going to drop a little teaser here. We have a Smartsheet. Smartsheet is part of our virtual job fair tomorrow, from 8 to 11, right, Jen?
8 to 11 Pacific. Yep.
And that is 11
to 2.
Thank you. We talked about this before, and yes. Jen wrote them down and I didn't. So 8 to 11 Pacific, 11 to 2 Eastern. They're going to be participating in the virtual job fair tomorrow. So please come and attend. And with that, Jen, we have like 6 to 8 minutes left of our conversation here. Talk to us a little bit about, from a talent acquisition perspective at Smartsheet, what are some of the things that y'all look for in the interview process and on a resume? Give us some few tips and tricks.
Yeah, and I think the thoughts of like a resume are kind of how it was and how we're thinking about resumes. Like, it's always great in any resume to have data around what you've done and metrics around what you've done and what that meant. And they're bullet points, right? It's very cold. It's very it's black and white. It's right there. And what we're looking for in the summit and we're looking for with the conversation is really understanding your story. What's your why? Why are you here? Why do you want this role? Why do you want to get into it? And I think if we've learned anything over the last 2 years, it's a lot of self-reflection on what is my why. I want to get into technology because of this. I had this experience in my life, and this is now a passion of mine, and this is where I want to go. And I want there to be confidence to tell the whole story. Be your authentic self. I don't want to know how you want to, work a project from A to B and what that looks like and tell me the steps that you would take. Like, that's fantastic and we can get there. But your initial connection is understanding the why you're here, why we're having this conversation, and then take the time and have the confidence to tell the whole story authentically. And the people that are in the summit, the people that you're talking to, they want to hear that, and they're going to create that space for you.
Yeah, I think that's super important to harp on. What's your why?
What's your why?
A lot of self-reflection. I try to start every morning with journaling, right? And then some mornings, some mornings are like this morning where you're running a little late and you don't get to do it. But yeah, I think that's super crucial to keep in mind and I guess it's obviously role dependent, but what are some of the major skills or, qualities of a person that you see in an employee at Smartsheet?
Yeah. Oh, and we talked about it a little bit, is like having that insane curiosity of what is next and what about, and have you thought through this particular piece? This is how I think about it. There's also, now in this remote environment, there's a lot of accountability that you have to have for yourself. You can't pop up and see the person next and ask the question. It's like, how are you managing yourself? How are you managing your calendar? How are you managing your projects in your life? What does that look like? Early into your career, the best thing that you can do is have a point of view on what you need to be successful. What do you need to get that project done? Like, do you have to put a calendar reminder on? Do you have to make sticky notes? What is your organizational style? Because you want to know, you're going to be held accountable to do A, B, C, D. How are you going to get there, and how do you manage yourself? How do you hold yourself to those goals, and have those conversations with the hiring manager? Like, this is how I learn. This is how I'm best influence. This is what it looks like when I'm engaged, and being able to have those conversations, but know what they are, and like, I'm having a hard time getting to the next. I need your help with this. This is how I think about it, but I'm not closing the loop here. So being able to have those conversations with people, but really your organizational style and your how driven you are to complete is going to be important, and it's going to be different. It's not prescriptive.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. Man, if I could compare my organizational style 10 years ago to now,
right.
It would be it's very different. Now my calendar rules everything. So that's really cool. I see sticky notes. I know Meg's a big fan of sticky notes, I'm pretty sure. So that's funny to hear about the sticky notes. So something else that's near and dear to my heart that I get really excited talking to my clients and other Power to Fly clients about is your diversity, equity, and inclusion actions. So what are some of the things that Smartsheet's doing today to make sure that you're not only bringing in, from a recruiting perspective, a diverse workforce, but also, once you do bring these wonderful people into Smartsheet, what are you doing to make them feel comfortable there, to welcome them there? And then even to help them to maybe be allies to different groups, or to be vulnerable and learn about, if I'm a young white female, what is it like to be a woman of color in the US, right? Maybe I'm a little more, I don't have the knowledge there, and I want to learn, and I want to be able to have those conversations internally and help with that person's experience, but I don't know how to. How are y'all handling that?
Yeah. We just hired a new VP of DE&I, Amelia Ransom. She's fantastic. And she has a lot of ideas that she's going to be bringing to the table for us. What we are doing now is we do have employee resource groups. It's really important we have a DEI steering committee. where our CEO is the co-chair of. We have the chair of our Blacks at Smartsheet as the other co-chair for our DEI steering committee. And then we have the several ERGs between 15 to 20, and then we keep adding different ERGs that we have right now. It's really important as leaders within the organization to go to these groups and being able to have an open dialogue with them. I met with Blacks at Smartsheet and wanted to understand, they wanted to understand what I was doing as far as top of funnel and attract. And then they wanted to talk through what does it look like, what you had just mentioned on the belonging piece. And the big thing that we heard from the group is that they wanted coaching on career development as Black individuals. And so being able to find resources to be able to meet them individually, I think is super important. We have overarching strategic goals for the entire company before we offer to anyone for a senior leader and above, like director and above. We have to be able to not just interview, but loop someone from an underrepresented and non-traditional background for that particular role. So that's a commitment we've made for our higher leadership. But I spoke earlier about that early career motion and what it looks like to really build the foundation of Smartsheet's talent. And so being able to go from both sides. And then also while we're doing that, we're taking a look at what is the career progression for our folks look like? What is the representation of the metrics around that? And where are our gaps? So big goals ahead of us. There's always room to evolve. There's always room to be able to adjust in this space, but definitely setting the early career foundation piece is important. Meeting our ERGs where they are specifically, knowing that one solution doesn't fit everyone, but being able to create a safe space to be in receipt of what they need, and being in the talent space, having the learning and development and the talent management piece under the whole umbrella, that's our responsibility. So yeah, it's an exciting time. And like I had said earlier, seeing the leaders who were so used to this specific motion of talent and what it looks like 4 years of SaaS experience, coming from another SaaS company, 4 years of sales experience with this, coming from this type of university, having their eyes open at the amazing talent and success folks without those backgrounds are bringing to Smartsheet, and what that looks like for us is everything.
Yeah. And I think one important piece that you didn't say specifically, but you talked about the whole time, was maybe it's not increased, but the amount of collaboration that's happening within Smartsheet, right? It's amazing to hear. And I see it from your customer success manager, Lilia, the amount of conversations and collaboration and how much oversight there is between talent acquisition is no longer a standalone organization, right? You're working with the ERGs, you're working with your leaders, you're bringing in the early career talent, and then looking at mentorship programs to help them to proceed in their career. So this has all been super wonderful. Thank you so much for telling us a bit about yourself. I even learned a few things. And tell us with the last minute here, how can we get in contact with you, or how can we keep up with your passions and endeavors? Yeah, we will be at the summit tomorrow. I'm bringing some folks in from Smartsheet that have grown their careers as early career employees previously. So definitely come see us tomorrow. Again, that is 8 to 11 Pacific and 11 to 12 East Coast time. I'm on LinkedIn, Jen Stoural, and you can find me. I accept everyone's invitations, so I'd love to be able to connect with you. I'm also at jenstoural@smartsheet.com. So feel free to reach out. We look forward to hearing from all of you. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and super excited to spend time with all of you today. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. I'll see you soon. And Meg, looking amazing as always. His glasses are sick.
Thank you.
I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks for having us today.
This was a great conversation. So thank you both for sharing your time with us. It was absolutely wonderful.